Most people do not lose their joy in one moment. They lose it slowly by rushing through their days without noticing what is already good. They wake up tired, move through tasks on autopilot, carry stress without question, and keep waiting for life to feel easier before they allow themselves to enjoy it. This audiobook is for anyone who is ready to stop living that way. It is about learning how to notice simple joy again, how to protect peace in the middle of pressure, and how to build a life that feels steady, meaningful, and alive. Inside these chapters, you will find practical ways to begin your mornings with purpose, simplify your schedule, pause before stress takes over, think more honestly about yourself, choose habits that support your energy, reconnect with good people, take small daily actions that matter, release regret, and recognize real progress as it happens. None of this is about perfection. It is about making each day better in ways you can actually repeat. If life has felt heavy, empty, or too fast lately, this is your reminder that change can begin with small choices made today. Stay with this audiobook because what comes next can help you build a stronger mind, a calmer heart, and a life you do not keep postponing. Chapter 1. Embrace daily gratitude to notice simple joys everywhere. Most people do not lose their lives in one dramatic moment. They lose them slowly. A day becomes a blur, then a week, then a month. Work gets done, tasks get checked off, messages get answered, meals are eaten in a rush, sleep comes late. The mind stays busy, but the heart feels strangely empty. A person can look productive on the outside and still be missing the real experience of being alive. That is how life gets wasted. Not always through failure, often through numbness, through forgetting how to notice what is already good, through moving so fast that simple joy never gets a chance to be felt. Gratitude changes that. Gratitude is not pretending that life is perfect. It is not denying pain. It is not forcing a smile when something is wrong. Gratitude is a disciplined way of seeing. It is the practice of turning the mind toward what is still present, still working, still giving, still holding you up. A warm cup of tea, clean water, a quiet morning, a message from someone who cares. The fact that your lungs are breathing without being told. The fact that the day is still open and something good can still happen inside it. These things are not small when you really pay attention. They are the structure of a meaningful life. A person who practices gratitude does not become blind to hardship. They become stronger inside it. They stop asking life to be painless before they allow themselves to feel peace. They stop delaying joy until every problem is solved. That delay ruins many lives. People keep saying they will be happy when the debt is gone, when the body changes, when the job improves, when the family becomes easier, when the future feels secure. But life does not wait for the perfect condition. The present is always here. The only question is whether it will be met with attention or ignored in the chase for something else. If the mind is trained to focus only on what is missing, then even a full life will feel empty. A person can have a roof, food, health, work, and a few people who care, yet still feel poor in spirit because their attention is always on the next lack. They compare their life to someone else's highlight reel. They count what is not there. They rehearse complaints. They live in a mental room with the curtains closed. Gratitude opens the curtains. It does not change the weather, but it changes what can be seen. And that change matters more than many people realize. The first step is simple, but simple does not mean easy. Pause long enough to notice. Most people rush through the day with their eyes open and their awareness shut. They wake up and reach for the phone. They walk through the house without noticing the light on the wall. They eat while thinking about the next task. They talk to people while half of the mind is somewhere else. They reach the end of the day and feel tired, but not satisfied. That is because they were present in body, but absent in spirit. Gratitude begins by slowing down the mind just enough to see what is already there. Start with the first minutes of the day. Before you check messages, before you get pulled into noise, before your mind is filled with demands, notice 3 things that are good right now. Not 3 perfect things, just 3 real things. Maybe the room is quiet. Maybe the bed was warm. Maybe your body woke up and can move. Maybe there is sunlight on the floor. Maybe there is someone in your life who has shown you kindness. Maybe you have a chance to begin again. When this becomes a habit, the day starts differently. It starts with recognition instead of panic. It starts with enoughness instead of lack. There is a quiet strength in beginning the day this way. It reminds the mind that life is not only a list of duties, it is also an experience that can be felt. Many people wake up already behind because they start by thinking about what they have not done. Gratitude puts the mind in a better order. It says, "Before I measure what is unfinished, I will acknowledge what is already given." That is a disciplined thought. It keeps the soul from becoming ungrateful and restless before the day has even begun. You can also practice gratitude by paying attention to ordinary moments. These moments are often ignored because they seem too common. But common does not mean worthless. The first sip of water when you are thirsty, the comfort of a clean shirt, a bus arriving on time, a friend laughing at something small, a meal that fills the stomach, a breeze after heat, a shower after a long day, the sound of rain, the silence after a noisy room. These are not dramatic events, but they shape the quality of a life. A person who notices them lives with more depth. They are not waiting only for big victories. They know how to receive small gifts. That kind of awareness changes the body too. When people are constantly angry, fearful, or dissatisfied, the body carries that weight. Shoulders tighten, breathing becomes shallow, the face hardens, sleep becomes less restful. Gratitude does not remove all stress, but it softens the inner posture. It gives the nervous system a different signal. It says there is still safety here. There is still something to appreciate. There is still a reason not to collapse into bitterness. Over time, this changes the way a person moves through the world. They become less reactive and more steady. A grateful person is not weak. In fact, gratitude requires strength because it refuses to be ruled by complaint. Complaint feels easy. Anyone can complain. Complaint needs no discipline. It spreads quickly and gathers followers. Gratitude is different. It asks for honesty, patience, and self-control. It asks the person to say, "Yes, this is hard, but this is also true and good." That kind of honesty keeps the mind grounded. It prevents life from becoming exaggerated by frustration. It helps a person stay in contact with reality instead of drowning in emotional noise. To build this habit, use your own words each day. Say what is good out loud if possible. Do not wait for a perfect feeling. Speak it plainly. I am grateful for this meal. I am grateful that I can walk. I am grateful for the person who checked on me. I am grateful for another chance to improve. Simple words carry power when they are sincere. When spoken regularly, they train the mind. They pull attention away from what is missing and back toward what is already supporting your life. Over time, this becomes less like an exercise and more like a way of living. Another practical way to strengthen gratitude is through writing. At the end of the day, write down 3 things that brought a real moment of peace, comfort, or meaning. They do not need to be grand. Maybe the sun looked beautiful through a window. Maybe you finished something difficult. Maybe someone spoke to you with respect. Maybe you learned something useful. Maybe you handled a hard moment without losing control. Writing these things down matters because memory is not always fair. The mind tends to remember pain more easily than blessing. A written record protects the truth from being swallowed by a bad mood. This is especially important on difficult days. On bad days, the mind says there is nothing good left. That is rarely true. It may feel true, but feelings are not always reliable guides. A hard day can still contain one good conversation, one quiet breath, one honest effort, one small kindness, one thing that did not fall apart. Gratitude on a hard day is not denial. It is resistance. It is the decision to refuse total defeat. It says, "This day is not only what hurt me." That thought can keep a person from sinking too deep into despair or resentment. Many people will make the mistake of believing gratitude is only for people who already have a comfortable life. That idea is false. Some of the most grateful people are those who have had to fight for every peaceful moment. They know what it means to value what others take for granted. They do not confuse luxury with happiness. They understand that a thankful spirit can live in a small room, a busy house, a modest job, or a difficult season. Gratitude is not about having more, it is about seeing more. A person with little but a grateful mind often lives better than a person with much but a restless heart. That does not mean life should never improve. It should. Growth matters, responsibility matters, effort matters, discipline matters, but gratitude keeps growth clean. Without gratitude, improvement can become obsession. A person keeps chasing more without ever feeling satisfied. They become addicted to comparison. They turn every achievement into a temporary relief instead of a lasting source of purpose. Gratitude protects ambition from becoming greed. It teaches a person to build a better life without insulting the life they already have. There is also a deep moral strength in gratitude. A grateful person tends to treat others with more patience and respect. Why? Because they are not constantly acting as if the world owes them everything. They know that many things in life come through the help of others. A meal came through work from many hands. A clean street came through someone's effort. Knowledge came through teachers, books, and lived experience. Safety often exists because someone else has carried responsibility. Gratitude makes a person less selfish and more aware of connection. That awareness changes relationships. It makes kindness more natural. You can practice this in your daily interactions. Say thank you and mean it. Not as a habit without feeling, but as a real recognition of effort. Thank the person who helped you. Thank the person who listened. Thank the person who waited. Thank the person who made room for you. When gratitude becomes part of speech, it improves the atmosphere around you. People feel seen, they feel respected. And in return, your own heart becomes more open. A grateful life is rarely a lonely one because it notices the worth of others. Another powerful habit is to thank life before the outcome is complete. This takes maturity. It means you do not wait for certainty to be grateful. You learn to appreciate the opportunity to try, the strength to continue, the lesson hidden inside delay, and the discipline that comes from waiting. Many of the most important parts of character are formed in unfinished seasons. A person may not like where they are, but they can still be grateful for what that season is teaching. That does not erase the struggle. It gives it meaning. And meaning is often what keeps people from giving up. Gratitude also helps a person deal with pain without becoming bitter. Pain is part of life. No honest person can deny that. There will be loss. There will be disappointment. There will be days when plans fail and people act unfairly and the body feels tired and the future feels uncertain. The question is not whether pain will come. It is what kind of person you will become while carrying it. Gratitude helps prevent the heart from hardening. It reminds you that one painful chapter does not cancel every good page that came before it, or every good page that may still come after it. There is discipline in this. Stoic wisdom teaches that you cannot control everything that happens, but you can control how you answer it. Gratitude is part of that answer. It is the refusal to let outside events take over your inner world completely. You may not control the weather, the traffic, the mood of others, or the timing of life. But you can control whether you notice the small gifts still present inside the day. That control is not small. It is a form of inner freedom. A free person is not one who gets everything they want. A free person is one who can remain steady and thankful even when life is imperfect. The more you practice this, the more you will notice that joy was never as far away as it seemed. It was hiding inside the ordinary. Inside a cup of tea, inside clean sheets, inside a good conversation, inside a task completed well, inside a breath taken without struggle, inside a body that kept going, inside the relief of making it through a hard day. Many people search for joy as if it must arrive with applause. In truth, a lot of joy is quiet. It is already near. Gratitude trains the mind to find it. One of the best ways to keep gratitude alive is to connect it to action. Gratitude should not stay inside the head only, it should become behavior. If you are grateful for your health, care for your body. If you are grateful for your family, speak with more patience. If you are grateful for your job, work with more honesty. If you are grateful for your home, keep it in order. If you are grateful for a new day, use it well. Gratitude becomes real when it changes how you live. Without action, it remains just a pleasant thought. With action, it becomes character. This is where many people find transformation. They stop waiting to feel inspired and begin acting in a way that honors what they already have. They eat with more care. They sleep more responsibly. They waste less time. They speak more kindly. They become less entitled and more grounded. This is not because they suddenly found a perfect mood. It is because they started living as if life itself deserved respect. That is what gratitude does. It turns ordinary behavior into an expression of value. Think about how different your day becomes when you begin with appreciation instead of complaint. The same room, the same responsibilities, the same body, the same world. Yet the internal experience changes. One mind says, "Nothing is enough." The other says, "I have enough to begin, enough to learn, enough to do well, enough to keep moving." That shift may seem small, but it alters everything. It changes your energy, your choices, your patience, and the way you speak to yourself when things are difficult. A grateful mind becomes a stronger mind. And here is another truth worth remembering. Gratitude does not mean you stop wanting better. It means you stop insulting the present while reaching for it. You can want a better future and still respect the life you have now. You can work hard and still appreciate what is already here. You can be ambitious and still thankful. In fact, gratitude often makes ambition healthier because it reduces desperation. It gives a person a calmer reason to improve. They are not trying to escape life. They are trying to honor it. There will still be days when gratitude feels harder. That is normal. Some days the mind feels tired. Some days disappointment sits heavy. Some days the heart is distracted. On those days, do not demand perfection from yourself. Return to something simple. Notice one breath, notice one meal, notice one person, notice one thing that still works. Gratitude grows through repetition, not intensity. A small, sincere thought practiced daily can reshape the way you see your whole life. Do not wait for a dramatic emotional moment. Build the habit through small acts of attention. Over time, this changes the meaning of an ordinary day. A day is no longer just a container for work and worry. It becomes a place where life is actively noticed. A place where light is seen, where effort matters, where small joys are not ignored, where the heart is trained to remain awake. That is a powerful way to live. It does not require wealth. It does not require fame. It does not require perfect circumstances. It requires only presence and honesty. A person who learns gratitude does not waste life as easily. They are less likely to drift through the day on autopilot. They are more likely to protect their time, respect their energy, and appreciate the people and moments that make life worth living. They still face problems, but they do not let problems erase the whole picture. They still make mistakes, but they do not let mistakes define every hour. They still grow, but they grow with a more stable heart. That is what makes gratitude so powerful. It does not remove the human struggle. It gives the struggle a better companion. So begin where you are. Notice what is already good. Say thank you for what is already here. Write it down, speak it aloud, share it with others. Use it to guide your choices. Let gratitude shape your mornings, steady your afternoons, and soften your nights. Learn to see the simple joys that have been waiting for your attention all along. A life does not become meaningful only when everything becomes easy. It becomes meaningful when a person learns how to recognize goodness in the middle of ordinary days. This is one of the quiet secrets of a strong life. The person who can appreciate a simple morning, a kind word, a steady breath, a useful task, a warm meal, and another chance to begin is not wasting time. Fully, carefully, wisely, and with enough humility to know that joy does not always arrive with noise. Sometimes it arrives as a quiet moment of thankfulness that changes everything. Chapter 2. Build morning routines that protect peace and purpose. The first moments of the day are not ordinary. They shape the tone of everything that follows. Before the messages, before the noise, before other people's moods enter your mind, there is a small window where you can choose who you want to be for the rest of the day. That window is powerful. Many people give it away without thinking. They wake up and immediately open their phone, check what others want, let their mind run into worry, and step into the day already unsettled. By the time they stand up, their peace is gone. Their purpose has not been strengthened. It has been pushed aside. A strong morning routine protects both peace and purpose. Peace matters because a restless mind makes poor choices. Purpose matters because a life without direction becomes scattered and weak. When you begin your day with intention, you are not trying to control every event that may happen later. You are preparing your mind to respond with calm and discipline when those events arrive. That is how real strength is built. Not through a perfect life, but through a steady one. A good morning does not have to be complicated. In fact, the best routines are often simple enough to repeat without stress. The goal is not to create a long list of tasks that makes the morning feel heavy. The goal is to create a few habits that remind you what matters before the world starts asking for your attention. Wake up at a reasonable hour. Keep your first minutes free from unnecessary noise. Sit up and breathe before reaching for your phone. Give your mind a chance to settle. That small pause can save your whole day from beginning in chaos. If you want peace in the morning, protect your mind from immediate overload. The phone is often the first thief. It brings in opinions, alerts, problems, comparisons, and distractions before you have even spoken a word to yourself. A person who begins the day by absorbing other people's demands often spends the rest of the day recovering from that first mistake. Delay the phone. Even a short delay can make a difference. Use those first minutes to reconnect with yourself instead of handing your attention away too early. A morning routine should also remind you of your values. Before the day pulls you into work and pressure, ask yourself what kind of person you want to be today. Do you want to be patient, honest, focused, calm under pressure, helpful, disciplined, respectful? These are not abstract ideas. They become real through repeated choices. When you speak them to yourself in the morning, you prepare your mind to act according to them later. You are not just moving through time, you are deciding how to live inside it. Many people think purpose has to feel exciting to matter. It does not. Purpose is often quiet. It shows up in the decision to work well even when nobody is watching. It shows up in the choice to keep your room in order. It shows up in the discipline to begin a difficult task before you feel ready. It shows up in the effort to treat people with respect, even when you are tired. A purposeful morning does not need drama, it needs clarity. One clear intention can guide the whole day. Starting with your body. The body affects the mind more than many people admit. Make your bed, wash your face, drink water, stretch, open a window, step into light. These are small actions, but they send a message to your nervous system that the day has begun and that you are ready to take responsibility for it. A neglected body often leads to a restless mind. A cared-for body makes steadiness easier. This is not about perfection. It is about giving yourself a clean start. Then give your mind something useful. Read a page from a wise book. Write down a few sentences about what matters today. Review one goal. Think about one thing you must finish. Think about one person you should treat well. This gives direction to the day. Without direction, a person becomes busy without becoming effective. They move a lot but do not move forward. A morning routine protects you from that kind of wasted motion. It also helps to begin with silence, even for a few minutes. Silence is rare now, and because it is rare, it is valuable. In silence, your thoughts become easier to hear. You notice what is actually driving you. You may see fear, you may see pressure, you may see impatience, you may also see hope, discipline, and resolve. Without silence, all of these voices blend together and create confusion. A few quiet minutes in the morning can reveal the state of your inner life with more honesty than a full day of activity. A stoic way of starting the day is to accept that not everything will go as planned. That is not negative thinking, that is realism. The purpose of a morning routine is not to guarantee a perfect outcome. It is to prepare you for whatever comes without losing yourself. When you accept that delays may happen, people may disappoint you, and challenges may arrive, you become less fragile. You stop treating inconvenience as a crisis. You start treating it as part of life. That mindset creates peace. Purpose also grows when you know what deserves your best energy. Not every request deserves your immediate response. Not every problem needs your emotional reaction. Not every conversation deserves your attention. A strong morning helps you set those boundaries before the day begins. When you decide in advance what matters, you are less easily pulled away later. You become more deliberate. You waste less time on things that drain you. You reserve your energy for work that means something. There is great value in writing down the 1 or 2 things that matter most for the day. Too many people begin with a full list and end up doing everything badly. A focused mind is a stronger mind. Ask yourself what must be done, what would improve the day, and what can wait. This kind of thinking reduces pressure and increases effectiveness. It turns the morning into a place of leadership instead of confusion. You are leading your attention instead of letting it scatter. A peaceful morning also requires restraint. You do not need to react to everything right away. You do not need to fill every quiet moment. You do not need to be available the instant someone calls. Part of protecting peace is learning to move with less urgency. Urgency is not always wisdom. Sometimes it is just panic dressed as productivity. A calm morning teaches you to act with care rather than rush with anxiety. That difference matters in work, in relationships, and in the way you speak to yourself. You may not always have a perfect schedule. Some mornings will be short. Some will be interrupted. Some will begin with responsibility instead of calm. Even then, the principle remains the same. Create a small ritual that belongs to you. It might be 5 minutes of silence. It might be a short walk. It might be making your bed and drinking water before anything else. It might be writing 1 sentence about your purpose for the day. The size of the routine is not what gives it power. The consistency does. The real benefit of a morning routine is not simply feeling good. It is becoming reliable to yourself. That is a deeper thing. When you keep a promise to yourself in the morning, you build trust with your own character. You show yourself that you can live with discipline. That trust spreads into the rest of the day. You become less likely to drift, less likely to quit too easily, less likely to let emotion rule your choices. You begin to stand on firmer ground. This is how purpose becomes real, not through grand speeches, not through wishful thinking. Through repeated actions that tell your mind, today will not be wasted. A peaceful morning gives you that message before the world begins to compete for your attention. It helps you remember that life is not only about responding, it is also about choosing. Choosing calm, choosing focus, choosing what matters, choosing to live with care instead of carelessness. If you wake up each day and give yourself a few steady moments before the rush begins, you will notice a change. You will speak more clearly. You will think more calmly. You will react less. You will carry yourself with more direction. That is not a small thing. It is the difference between living as a passenger and living as the person behind the wheel. A morning routine will not solve every problem in your life, but it will make you stronger in the face of them. It will remind you that peace is something you can protect, and purpose is something you can practice. Begin small and stay consistent. Build a morning that respects your mind, your body, and your values. Let it be simple enough to repeat and strong enough to guide you. When your mornings are steady, your days become steadier. When your days become steadier, your life becomes more meaningful. That is how a person stops wasting time and starts living with intention. Chapter 3. Simplify your schedule to create room for joy. A life can become crowded without becoming meaningful. Many people fill their days with tasks, calls, obligations, and constant motion, yet still feel empty inside. They keep moving because stopping feels uncomfortable. They keep adding because saying no feels difficult. They keep accepting because they fear disappointing others. Before long, the schedule becomes heavier than the person carrying it. Joy gets pushed to the edges. Peace becomes rare. The day turns into a race with no clear finish. That is not a full life. That is a life overloaded with noise. Simplifying your schedule is not laziness. It is wisdom. It is the choice to stop treating every hour like it must be packed to prove its value. A crowded schedule often looks productive, but it can hide a lack of direction. A person can be busy from morning to night and still not have time to think, breathe, rest, or enjoy anything real. A simple schedule creates room for what matters. It gives joy space to enter. It gives the mind room to settle. It gives the heart space to feel alive again. The first step is honesty. Look at your week and ask what truly deserves your time. Not what sounds important. Not what others expect. Not what makes you feel needed for a moment. What actually matters. Many people are tired because they spend too much of themselves on things that do not build anything lasting. They say yes too quickly. They fill gaps with obligations they never needed. They accept responsibilities that belong to someone else. Then they wonder why they feel drained. A wise person learns that time is not only for spending, it is for protecting. You do not need to keep every promise if every promise is costing your peace. Some commitments should be reduced. Some should be removed. Some should never have been made in the first place. There is strength in choosing less when less gives you a better life. A lighter schedule is often a clearer one. It allows you to see what you are doing instead of just rushing through it. It lets you give attention to your work, your family, your health, and your inner life without feeling split into pieces. One practical way to simplify is to identify the tasks that are not essential. Many people have habits of overcommitting because they think they must keep every opportunity open. But an open calendar is not always a healthy calendar. A life without limits becomes a life without shape. Write down everything you do in a normal week. Then ask 3 questions. Does this matter? Does this need to happen now? Does this deserve my best energy? If the answer is no, it may be time to reduce it. That is not failure. That is maturity. It also helps to stop confusing movement with progress. Some tasks make you feel active but do not move your life forward. Endless checking, sorting, replying, attending, and organizing can become a habit that hides from deeper work. A simple schedule removes unnecessary movement so that meaningful work can happen. It creates space for the things that quietly improve life over time. Reading, walking, thinking, resting, speaking with care, doing one thing well instead of 5 halfway. That is how discipline begins to feel less like pressure and more like strength. Joy needs room. It does not survive well in a life that is constantly crowded. If every hour is taken, then even good moments feel rushed. You may eat but not taste. You may talk but not connect. You may rest but not recover. A simpler schedule gives life back its texture. It allows a meal to be a meal, a conversation to be a conversation, and a quiet evening to actually feel quiet. These ordinary experiences are not wasted time. They are part of a healthy life. Without them, life becomes useful but not enjoyable. A stoic way to simplify your schedule is to understand that your value is not measured by how full your calendar looks. You do not need to prove your importance through exhaustion. You do not need to make yourself unavailable to feel respected. A person with discipline knows that saying no to the wrong things makes room for the right things. That is not selfish. It is responsible. If you are always overextended, you cannot give your best to anything. You begin to live with irritation, forgetfulness, and emotional fatigue. Simplifying your schedule protects the quality of your effort. This choice also improves your relationships. When your life is too crowded, people receive the leftovers of your attention. You hear them, but not fully. You are there, but distracted. You answer quickly, but not deeply. When your schedule is simpler, your presence improves. You listen better. You speak more carefully. You become less rushed and more patient. That matters because many of the most important moments in life are not about getting more done. They are about being truly available to the people in front of you. A lighter schedule also makes it easier to notice what brings real joy. When there is too much noise, joy is drowned out by pressure. But when life is less crowded, simple pleasures become visible again. A walk without hurry, a meal eaten in peace, a clean room, a finished task, a calm conversation, a few minutes of sunlight apart, a moment of laughter. These are not small because they are quiet. They are important because they restore the person. A schedule that leaves no room for these things is too expensive. Some people fear simplification because they think it will make them less productive. In truth, it often makes them more effective. A mind under constant pressure cannot think clearly. A body with no rest cannot stay strong for long. A schedule with too many demands causes careless work, emotional strain, and unfinished responsibilities. Simplicity creates focus. Focus creates quality. Quality creates results that last. It is better to do fewer things with care than many things with confusion. To simplify well, start with your daily rhythm. Leave space between tasks. Do not stack every minute tightly. Give yourself time to move from one responsibility to another without feeling hunted by the clock. Add breathing room to your day. That breathing room is not wasted. It is where calm returns. It is where you can think, reset, and respond more wisely. A person who never has time to recover eventually becomes less patient, less clear, and less kind. Space is not a luxury. It is part of a sustainable life. Another important part of simplification is protecting your attention. A crowded schedule is often made worse by a crowded mind. Even when a task is finished, the mind keeps replaying other obligations. This creates constant feeling of pressure. You can reduce this by deciding ahead of time what deserves your attention today. When a task is done, let it be done. When a moment is for rest, let it be rest. When you are with someone, be with them fully. This discipline gives the day more shape and the heart more peace. Simplifying your schedule also means being careful with the word yes. A thoughtful yes is powerful. A careless yes can consume hours, energy, and focus. Before saying yes, pause. Ask whether it aligns with your priorities. Ask whether it will deepen your life or only fill it. A strong person is not the one who accepts everything. A strong person is the one who chooses well. That kind of choice protects joy because it keeps the day from being owned by too many demands. There will be seasons when life is necessarily full. Responsibilities come. Problems need attention. Work becomes heavier. Family needs increase. That is part of life. But even in those seasons, simplicity still matters. You may not reduce every obligation, but you can reduce unnecessary noise. You can remove one distraction. You can cancel one unimportant commitment. You can create one quiet moment. You can choose one evening to rest properly. Small reductions matter more than people realize. They keep the soul from being overwhelmed. A joyful life is not built by constant rush. It is built by wise order. A person who simplifies their schedule is not giving up on ambition. They are making room for a better kind of success, one that includes peace, awareness, and genuine enjoyment. They are learning that a full life is not the same as a crowded one. They are choosing depth over clutter, meaning over noise, presence over pressure. When you clear away what is unnecessary, the day becomes easier to live. You think more clearly. You feel less pulled in different directions. You notice more. You enjoy more. You waste less energy on things that do not matter. That is the hidden power of simplicity. It gives life back its shape, makes room for joy, not as an accident, but as a regular part of the day. And that is how a person begins to live with more freedom, more calm, and more respect for the time they have been given. Chapter 4. Practice mindful pauses before stress takes control. Stress does not usually arrive with a warning bell. It enters quietly. It hides in the tightness of the jaw, the speed of the thoughts, the shallow breath, the quick answer, the feeling that everything must be handled right now. Many people think stress begins when life becomes difficult, but often stress becomes powerful only because the mind never pauses long enough to notice it early. A small pressure becomes a larger one. A tense moment becomes a tense day. A tense day becomes a tense life. That is why mindful pauses matter. They stop pressure from taking full control. A mindful pause is not weakness. It is not delay for the sake of delay. It is not avoiding responsibility. It is the act of interrupting automatic reaction before it becomes a problem. It gives you one clear moment to step back, breathe, notice what is happening inside you, and choose your next action with more wisdom. That small break can protect your peace more than people realize. Many mistakes are not made because of evil intentions. They are made because the mind moved too fast. A pause creates space between feeling and response. In that space, better choices are possible. There is a reason calm people often seem stronger than frantic people. Calm is not the absence of pressure. Calm is the ability to stay connected to yourself when pressure increases. A person who pauses before responding is harder to shake. They do not let every problem drag them into panic. They do not let every disappointment control their tone. They do not let every irritation decide their behavior. That does not mean they feel nothing. It means they have learned how to meet feeling with discipline. That is a form of self-respect. The practice begins with awareness. Most stress grows because people move through the day on autopilot. They answer, react, rush, worry, and push forward without checking what is happening inside. The body gives signals first as shoulders rise, the stomach tightens. The mind starts racing. If you catch these signs early, you can pause before the whole system gets swept away. This is not complicated. It only requires honesty. Notice what your body is telling you. Notice what your thoughts are doing. Notice when your emotions are getting louder than your judgment. One of the simplest mindful pauses is the breath. Not a dramatic exercise, just one slow, intentional breath taken with full attention. Inhale. Hold for a moment. Exhale slowly. Do that before you answer a difficult message. Do that before stepping into a stressful conversation. Do that when frustration starts rising. Do that before making a decision under pressure. One breath may seem small, but it can interrupt a harmful pattern. It reminds the nervous system that urgency is not the same as necessity. It gives the mind a chance to reset. Another powerful pause is silence. When stress begins to rise, many people fill the moment with more talking, more scrolling, more noise, more movement. That usually makes things worse. Silence allows the nervous system to settle. It allows the mind to separate facts from fear. It allows you to hear yourself more clearly. A few seconds of stillness can reveal whether you are reacting to the present situation or to old frustration that has been building for days. That distinction matters. It keeps you from unloading one moment's pressure onto the wrong person or the wrong task. A mindful pause also helps you return to what is real. Stress often makes everything feel larger than it is. A delayed reply feels like rejection. A mistake feels like failure. A disagreement feels like a threat. A paused mind asks better questions. Is this truly urgent? Is this within my control? What is the next useful step? What can wait? These questions do not erase the challenge, but they shrink exaggeration. They bring the mind back to reality. That is one of the clearest paths to peace. Stoic wisdom has always pointed toward this kind of self-command. You cannot stop life from presenting discomfort, but you can stop discomfort from ruling your inner life. The pause is where that choice becomes visible. It is the moment when you refuse to be pulled entirely by impulse. You stop and ask whether your first reaction is your best reaction. Often it is not. A person can feel anger and still choose patience. A person can feel fear and still choose steadiness. A person can feel pressure and still choose action without panic. That is strength. The beauty of mindful pauses is that they can happen anywhere. In the kitchen, in the car, before a meeting, after a difficult phone call, while standing in line, before opening an email, in the middle of a busy afternoon. You do not need a perfect room or a special time. You only need a moment of awareness. A pause does not remove your responsibilities. It makes you better able to carry them. It keeps your mind from becoming scattered and exhausted by constant pressure. People often believe that being quick is the same as being effective. That is not always true. A fast reaction may solve nothing and damage more than it helps. A quick temper can ruin a conversation. A rushed reply can create confusion. A hasty choice can add problems that were not there before. The pause protects you from that kind of self-inflicted damage. It teaches the mind that speed should serve wisdom, not replace it. There is a difference between acting promptly and acting blindly. The pause helps preserve that difference. This practice also changes the way you treat other people. When stress controls a person, everyone around them feels it. Tone becomes sharp, listening becomes shallow, patience disappears. Small problems turn into big tensions, but when a person pauses before reacting, they create safety. People feel more respected. Conversations become clearer. Conflict becomes easier to manage. A calm response lowers the temperature in a room. That is not passive behavior. That is emotional discipline with real impact. A helpful habit is to build small pauses into the day before stress becomes too strong. Do not wait until you are overwhelmed. Pause before meals. Pause when switching from one task to another. Pause before entering your home after a difficult day. Pause before speaking about a problem. These small resets teach the body and mind that rest is allowed. They also create a rhythm of awareness that prevents constant strain from building unnoticed. Regular pauses are easier than emergency recovery. There is also value in pausing to ask what the stress is trying to tell you. Sometimes stress reveals that you are trying to do too much. Sometimes it reveals that you have ignored a boundary. Sometimes it reveals that you need rest, clarity, preparation, or honesty. Stress is not always the enemy. It can be a signal. A mindful person does not just suppress the signal. They listen to it. They ask what needs to change. Maybe the schedule is too crowded. Maybe the expectation is unfair. Maybe the fear is based on assumptions. Maybe the problem is smaller than it feels. The pause allows those truths to surface. A life without pauses becomes reactive. A reactive life is exhausting because it never leads. It only responds. It gets pulled from one feeling to another, one demand to another, one worry to another. That is not a strong way to live. A person who learns to pause before stress, takes control, becomes less fragile. They build a kind of inner space that protects them from collapse. Even when life is difficult, they remain connected to choice, and choice is powerful. Choice is where dignity lives. This habit grows through repetition. The first time may feel awkward, the second time may feel weak, but over time it becomes natural. The mind learns that a pause is not a threat. It is a tool, a useful one that gives more clarity than panic ever could. The more often you practice it, the more quickly you notice stress rising. And the sooner you notice it, the more easily you can stop it from spreading. This is how self-mastery is built. Not in one dramatic moment, but in many small moments of awareness. When the day becomes hard, do not ask yourself to be perfect. Ask yourself to pause long enough to respond with wisdom. That one habit can change the outcome of conversations, decisions, and moods. It can protect your energy. It can preserve your peace. It can stop a hard moment from becoming a ruined day. It can keep stress from taking the steering wheel. And when you learn that skill, you stop living as a victim of pressure and begin living as someone who can stand steady inside it. That is the deeper value of mindful pauses. They return control to the person who is willing to be present. They create room for calm, room for thought, room for better action. They remind you that you are not required to react to everything at once. You are allowed to breathe. You are allowed to reflect. You are allowed to choose. And in that small space, stress loses some of its power, while your peace becomes stronger than before. Chapter 5. Strengthen your mindset with honest self-reflection daily. A strong mindset is not built by pretending everything is fine. It is built by telling yourself the truth. Many people want confidence, clarity, and peace, but they avoid the one habit that can create all three: honest self-reflection. Without it, The mind stays crowded with excuses, old habits, hidden fears, and repeated mistakes. A person may look busy, sound positive, and still remain stuck. Daily self-reflection cuts through that. It asks a direct question: what is true about my life right now, and what am I doing with that truth? This kind of reflection is not about judging yourself harshly. It is not about attacking your character or replaying every failure until you feel smaller. That would not help. Honest self-reflection is quieter and more useful than that. It is the willingness to look at your actions, your habits, your choices, and your reactions without hiding from them. It is the decision to stop defending what is clearly hurting you. It is how you become stronger in a real way, not just in words. A weak mindset often protects itself with excuses. It says the day was too hard, the timing was wrong, the other person caused the problem, the work was too much, the mood was off, the result was unlucky. Some of those things may be partly true, but if you only explain your life without examining it, you stay trapped. Reflection turns the light on. It makes it harder to lie to yourself. And once the truth is visible, change becomes possible. Set aside a few quiet minutes each day and ask simple questions. What did I do well today? Where did I lose control? What am I avoiding? What habit helped me? What habit hurt me? These questions do not need fancy language. They need honesty. A person who can answer them clearly begins to understand their own patterns. That understanding is powerful because many problems are repeated, not because people are incapable, but because they never stop long enough to see what they keep doing. Self-reflection works best when it becomes a daily practice. Not once in a while, not only when life gets bad. Daily reflection keeps your mind sharp. It helps you catch problems early, while they are still manageable. A small mistake noticed today can become a lesson. The same mistake ignored for months can become a pattern that damages work, relationships, confidence, and health. Reflection prevents that kind of slow damage. It gives you a chance to correct course before too much is lost. You do not need a long process to begin. Sit somewhere quiet. Close your eyes for a moment if it helps. Think back through your day in an honest way. Where were you calm? Where were you impatient? Where did you speak too quickly? Where did you avoid responsibility? Where did you act with discipline? Where did you waste time? Where did you feel proud of your choices? Let the answers come without forcing them. The purpose is not to impress yourself. The purpose is to understand yourself. This habit builds mental strength because it trains the mind to face reality. Reality is often less threatening than the stories we create about it. A person who avoids reflection may fear admitting a bad habit because they think it means failure. It does not. It means awareness. And awareness is the first form of power. A person who says, "I have been delaying an important task," is in a better position than a person who keeps saying, "I will deal with it later," while the pressure grows. Truth is not always comfortable, but it is useful. Honest reflection also teaches emotional maturity. Many people are ruled by moods they never examine. They feel irritated and blame others. They feel tired and stop caring. They feel discouraged and assume nothing will improve. Reflection interrupts that cycle. It asks, why did I feel that way? And what was I really needing? Sometimes the answer is rest. Sometimes it is structure. Sometimes it is courage. Sometimes it is better boundaries. Sometimes it is simply a need to stop expecting life to be easy. A reflective person becomes less reactive because they begin to understand their own inner patterns. The Stoic approach fits this practice well. You cannot always control what happens, but you can always study how you respond. That is a powerful place to begin. Each day gives you evidence about your mind. Did pressure make you careless? Did discomfort make you lazy? Did uncertainty make you impatient? Did pride make you blind? Did discipline help you remain calm? These are not questions to shame you. They are questions to train you. A mind that learns from itself becomes harder to defeat. One of the greatest benefits of reflection is that it removes false confidence. Some people feel strong because they never stop to examine themselves. But that kind of confidence is fragile. It collapses the moment reality becomes too demanding. Honest self-reflection creates a deeper confidence. You know your weak points, so you are less likely to be surprised by them. You know your strengths, so you can use them with more purpose. You know what drains you, so you can protect yourself better. You know what helps you grow, so you can repeat it intentionally. That kind of confidence is steady because it is built on truth. Writing helps. A few lines each night can reveal more than many days of vague thinking. Put the day into words. Describe one success, name one mistake, note one lesson. Record one thing that needs attention tomorrow. The act of writing slows the mind enough to make the truth clearer. It also creates a record. When you look back over weeks and months, you begin to see patterns you could not see in the moment. You may notice that certain people drain your energy, or that your focus drops at certain times, or that your mood improves when your morning is steady. These discoveries are valuable because they point to action. Reflection becomes more powerful when it leads to change. Truth without action can become a habit of self-criticism. That is not the goal. The goal is improvement. If you notice that you are too quick to react, then practice slower responses. If you see that you keep postponing important work, then begin earlier. If you notice that your inner talk is too harsh, then speak to yourself with more fairness and discipline. If you realize that your attention is scattered, then reduce the noise in your environment. Honest reflection should always move toward practical correction. There is also courage in admitting what you do not yet know. A strong mindset does not pretend to have every answer. It is willing to learn. It is willing to say, "I need to do better here." That statement is not weakness, it is maturity. People respect honesty because it creates trust, and the same is true inside your own mind. When you stop lying to yourself, you build a stronger inner relationship. You begin to trust your own judgment more because you know it is not based on fantasies. Daily self-reflection can also protect your peace. A mind that never checks itself often becomes crowded with guilt, confusion, and hidden frustration. Reflection clears that space. It gives you a chance to settle unresolved thoughts before they harden into resentment or anxiety. It can be as simple as asking, "What do I need to let go of today? What should I repair? And what should I carry into tomorrow with more care?" These questions do not require perfection. They require honesty and a willingness to improve. As this practice continues, you will notice that your standards become clearer. You will know what kind of person you are trying to become. That clarity matters because a life without self-reflection often drifts. It reacts to whatever is nearby. But a reflective life has direction. It moves with more purpose. It makes better use of time. It is less likely to waste energy on denial and more likely to invest that energy in growth. That is how the mindset strengthens from the inside out. You may not enjoy every truth you uncover at first. That is normal. Some truths are uncomfortable because they demand responsibility. But discomfort is often the doorway to strength. The person who can face themselves honestly does not remain weak for long. They begin to improve in ways that are real and lasting. They become calmer because they are less confused. They become wiser because they are less defensive. They become more dependable because they know where they stand. At the end of each day, return to yourself with calm honesty. Ask what was learned. Ask what needs correction. Ask what deserves gratitude. Ask how you can begin again with more wisdom tomorrow. That simple habit can reshape your life. It keeps pride from growing too fast. It keeps excuses from taking root. It keeps your mind awake. And an awake mind is a stronger mind. A stronger mind makes better choices. Better choices build a better life. That is the value of honest self-reflection. It does not just show you who you are. It helps you become who you are meant to be. Chapter 6. Choose healthy habits that support energy and focus. Energy is one of the most valuable resources in life. Without it, even simple tasks feel difficult. Without it, goals remain unfinished, good intentions fade, and opportunities pass by unnoticed. Focus is equally important. A person may have talent, ambition, and knowledge, But without the ability to direct attention toward what matters, progress becomes slow and inconsistent. Many people spend years searching for motivation when the real problem is that their daily habits are draining the very energy and focus they need to succeed. The truth is that most people do not lose their energy all at once. They lose it gradually through small choices repeated every day. They stay awake later than necessary. They eat without thinking about how food affects their body. They spend hours consuming information that adds little value. They ignore movement. They neglect recovery. They overload their minds with constant stimulation. Then they wonder why they feel exhausted before the day has even reached its halfway point. A meaningful life requires more than good intentions. It requires a body and mind that can support consistent action. That is why healthy habits matter so much. They are not just activities, they are investments. Every healthy choice is a vote for the person you are becoming. Every unhealthy pattern quietly takes something away from your future. The difference may seem small today, but over months and years, the results become impossible to ignore. One of the most important habits is protecting your sleep. Sleep is often sacrificed first because it appears flexible. People tell themselves they can sleep later. They convince themselves that one more hour of entertainment or work is worth the cost. But the body keeps score. Poor sleep affects judgment, concentration, patience, memory, emotional stability, and physical health. A tired mind struggles to make wise decisions. A tired body works harder to perform basic tasks. Think about how different life feels after a night of quality rest. Your thoughts are clearer. Your reactions are steadier. Challenges feel more manageable. Small problems do not seem as overwhelming. This is not an accident. Rest allows the brain to recover and prepare for another day of effort. A person who values energy must value recovery. There is discipline in going to bed on time. There is wisdom in understanding that rest is preparation, not weakness. Food also plays a powerful role in daily performance. Many people eat based only on convenience, craving, or habit. They rarely stop to consider how their meals affect their energy levels. Food is not simply something that fills the stomach. It becomes part of the body. It influences how you think, move, and feel. When meals are consistently poor, energy becomes unstable, focus becomes harder to maintain. Motivation begins to depend on temporary stimulation instead of genuine strength. This does not require perfection. It requires awareness. Choose foods that support your body rather than constantly working against it. Eat in a way that leaves you feeling capable rather than sluggish. Pay attention to how different foods affect your concentration. Learn from your own experience. A wise person studies the connection between their choices and their results. They do not ignore obvious patterns. They adjust and improve. Water is another simple habit that is often overlooked. Something as basic as hydration can influence mental clarity and physical performance. Many people move through the day tired and distracted without realizing that their body is asking for something simple. Small habits may seem insignificant, but they accumulate. The body responds to consistency more than intensity. Small improvements maintained over time create meaningful change. Movement is equally important. The human body was not designed to remain inactive for long periods. Movement improves circulation, supports physical health, reduces stress, and helps maintain mental sharpness. Exercise does not need to be extreme to be valuable. A walk, stretching session, workout, or physical activity that challenges the body appropriately can create noticeable benefits. Many people wait until they feel motivated before they move. This approach rarely works. Action often creates motivation rather than the other way around. Some of the best decisions happen when you choose movement despite not feeling like it. Afterward, the body feels more awake. The mind feels less cluttered. The day feels more manageable. These outcomes are available to anyone willing to build the habit. Focus is not only affected by physical health. It is also shaped by the information you allow into your mind. Modern life offers endless distractions. Notifications, videos, messages, headlines, and constant updates compete for attention. A distracted mind becomes tired because it is constantly switching directions. It never stays with one thought long enough to develop depth. Healthy focus requires boundaries. You must decide what deserves your attention. Not every piece of information deserves entry into your mental space. Not every interruption deserves an immediate response. Attention is limited. Treat it as something valuable. Guard it carefully. One useful habit is creating periods of uninterrupted concentration. During these periods, focus on one important task without allowing distractions to pull you away. At first, this may feel uncomfortable. Many people have become so accustomed to constant stimulation that quiet concentration feels difficult. But difficulty is not a sign that something is wrong. It is often a sign that a skill needs strengthening. The ability to focus deeply is becoming increasingly rare. Because it is rare, it is becoming increasingly valuable. A person who can give full attention to meaningful work gains an advantage in nearly every area of life. They learn faster, they produce better results, they make fewer mistakes. They experience greater satisfaction because they complete what they begin. Healthy habits also include protecting emotional energy. Not every drain on energy comes from physical causes. Some drains come from constant negativity, unnecessary conflict, and relationships that leave you feeling exhausted. Pay attention to what influences your mental state. Notice which environments encourage growth and which ones repeatedly create stress. This does not mean avoiding every difficult situation. Challenges are part of life. However, there is a difference between facing necessary difficulties and voluntarily surrounding yourself with constant chaos. A wise person learns the difference. They choose environments that support stability whenever possible. They seek conversations that add value rather than endless complaints. They become intentional about what they allow into their mind. Another powerful habit is finishing what you start. Unfinished tasks consume mental energy. They remain in the background of your thoughts, creating pressure that never fully disappears. Completing important tasks creates a sense of progress and relief. It frees attention for future responsibilities. This is why discipline often feels better than procrastination in the long run. Discipline may require effort now, but procrastination charges interest later. Healthy habits are also connected to how you speak to yourself. Many people carry an inner voice that constantly criticizes, doubts, or discourages them. Over time, this mental environment becomes exhausting. Constructive self-talk does not ignore mistakes. It addresses them honestly while still encouraging growth. Speak to yourself as someone committed to improvement, not as someone looking for reasons to quit. There is tremendous value in consistency. People often underestimate what can be achieved through repeated effort. They become excited by dramatic change and disappointed by gradual progress. Yet nearly every meaningful improvement begins with small actions repeated over time. Better nutrition, more movement, more focus, better boundaries, better self-discipline. These habits may seem ordinary, but their combined effect is extraordinary. The Stoic perspective reminds us that strength comes from managing what is within our control. You may not control every challenge that appears in your life. You may not control unexpected setbacks. You may not control the behavior of others, but you can influence many of the habits that determine your daily condition. You can choose how you treat your body. You can choose how you direct your attention. You can choose how you spend your time. These choices matter. A strong life is rarely built on occasional bursts of effort. It is built on reliable routines that support long-term growth. Healthy habits create stability. Stability creates consistency. Consistency creates progress. Progress builds confidence. Confidence encourages further action. This cycle strengthens over time when supported by wise decisions. Do not wait until exhaustion forces change. Do not wait until poor health becomes impossible to ignore. Do not wait until distraction steals years of your potential. Begin with one improvement. then another, then another. Keep moving forward without demanding perfection from yourself. Every day presents an opportunity to strengthen your foundation. Every healthy choice improves your ability to think clearly, act decisively, and enjoy life more fully. Energy allows you to engage with the world. Focus allows you to direct that engagement toward meaningful goals. Together, they create momentum. A person who protects their energy and focus gains something far more valuable than temporary motivation. They gain reliability. They become someone who can continue moving forward even when enthusiasm fades. They become someone who can handle responsibility without constant overwhelm. They become someone who lives with greater clarity, purpose, and effectiveness. That transformation does not happen overnight. It happens through habits, quiet choices, daily actions, repeated commitments, small decisions made consistently until they become part of who you are. And when those habits begin supporting your life instead of working against it, you discover that lasting energy and steady focus are not mysterious gifts. They are the natural result of living with discipline, awareness, and respect for yourself. Chapter 7. Reconnect with people who bring warmth and honesty. No one is meant to carry life entirely alone. Human beings are strong in many ways, but even the strongest person needs connection. Not constant attention, not endless approval, not a crowd of people. What truly matters is having a few honest relationships that bring warmth, trust, understanding, and encouragement. These relationships do more than make life pleasant. They help protect your perspective during difficult times. They remind you who you are when stress, disappointment, or uncertainty begin to cloud your thinking. Many people spend years working on their goals, improving their habits, and building their future, yet they slowly drift away from the people who matter most. Life becomes busy. Responsibilities increase, schedules become crowded. Days pass without meaningful conversations. Months go by without reaching out. What was once a close connection becomes distant. This often happens gradually. There is no dramatic ending. There is simply a growing gap created by neglect. One of the greatest mistakes a person can make is assuming that valuable relationships will maintain themselves without effort. Just as a garden requires care, healthy relationships require attention. They need time. They need communication. They need sincerity. Without these things, even strong connections can weaken. Reconnecting with good people is not merely about socializing. It is about restoring something essential to a meaningful life. Think about the people who have brought genuine value into your journey. The people who listened when you needed support. The people who spoke honestly when you needed guidance. The people who celebrated your progress without jealousy. The people who remained respectful even during disagreements. These individuals are rare. They deserve appreciation. They deserve your effort. In today's world, it is possible to be surrounded by communication and still feel disconnected. Messages arrive constantly. Notifications never stop. Yet meaningful conversation often becomes less common. Real connection requires presence. It requires attention. It requires the willingness to move beyond surface-level exchanges and speak honestly about life, challenges, hopes, and lessons. Many people underestimate the impact of a single genuine conversation. One thoughtful discussion can provide clarity that months of silent thinking cannot produce. Sometimes another person sees something you cannot see because they are looking from a different perspective. Sometimes they remind you of strengths you have forgotten. Sometimes they challenge assumptions that are limiting your growth. Sometimes they simply listen. Even that can be deeply valuable. Warmth and honesty are qualities worth seeking because they create trust. Warmth allows people to feel accepted. Honesty allows people to grow. Warmth without honesty can become shallow reassurance. Honesty without warmth can become harsh criticism. Together they create something powerful. They create relationships where people feel supported while still being encouraged to improve. A wise person learns to recognize these qualities. Not everyone who is friendly is trustworthy. Not everyone who agrees with you has your best interests at heart. Some people tell you only what you want to hear. Others disappear when difficulties arise. Some relationships are built on convenience rather than genuine care. This is why discernment matters. Pay attention to how you feel after spending time with certain people. Do you leave feeling encouraged, understood, and motivated to become better? Or do you leave feeling drained, anxious, and emotionally exhausted? The answer reveals a great deal. Relationships influence your mindset more than many people realize. The attitudes, habits, and values of those around you often shape your own thinking over time. This does not mean cutting people off over minor disagreements or imperfections. Every person has flaws. Every relationship experiences challenges. The goal is not perfection. The goal is identifying people whose presence consistently contributes something healthy to your life. Those connections deserve protection. Reconnecting often requires initiative. Waiting for others to make the first move can lead to years of unnecessary distance. Pride frequently becomes an obstacle. People tell themselves that if someone truly cared, they would reach out first. Meanwhile, both individuals remain silent. Valuable friendships slowly fade because neither side takes action. A simple message can change that. A phone call can reopen a conversation. An invitation can rebuild connection. Most relationships do not need grand gestures. They need sincerity. They need someone willing to say, "I have been thinking about you," or "It has been too long since we talked." Small actions often create meaningful results. Honest relationships also provide accountability. Accountability is not about control. It is about having people in your life who care enough to tell you the truth. Everyone has blind spots. Everyone has habits that are difficult to see from the inside. Trusted people can help reveal them. They can point out when you are drifting away from your values. They can remind you of commitments you have forgotten. They can encourage you to keep going when motivation becomes weak. Many people avoid accountability because they fear criticism. Yet, constructive feedback is often one of the greatest gifts another person can offer. Growth becomes easier when someone helps you see what you cannot see alone. This requires humility. It requires the willingness to listen without immediately becoming defensive. But the rewards are significant. Warm relationships also help protect emotional health. Life includes loss, disappointment, uncertainty, and pressure. During these moments, isolation often magnifies suffering. Thoughts become heavier when carried alone. Worries become larger. Problems appear more overwhelming. A supportive conversation can provide balance. It can remind you that difficult seasons are temporary. It can offer perspective when emotions are clouding judgment. There is also value in becoming the kind of person who brings warmth and honesty to others. Relationships are not only about what you receive, they are also about what you contribute. If you want trustworthy people in your life, become trustworthy. If you want understanding, practice understanding. If you want honesty, speak truthfully. Strong relationships grow through mutual effort. Listen carefully when people speak. Give them your full attention. Avoid the habit of waiting for your turn to talk. Ask thoughtful questions. Show genuine interest in their experiences. Many people feel unseen because few individuals truly listen. The ability to listen with patience is one of the simplest and most meaningful ways to strengthen connection. Another important lesson is learning to express appreciation while people are still present. Too often gratitude remains unspoken. People assume others already know how much they are valued. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they do not. There is power in expressing appreciation directly. Tell people when their support has mattered. Tell them when their advice helped. Tell them when their presence made a difficult season easier to endure. Regret often grows from words left unsaid. Opportunities for connection do not last forever. Life changes. Circumstances shift. People move. Priorities evolve. Time passes quickly. This reality should not create fear. It should create awareness. It should remind you to invest in meaningful relationships while you have the chance. The Stoic perspective encourages appreciation for what exists now, rather than taking it for granted. Every conversation is temporary. Every shared moment has value, because it cannot be repeated exactly as it is. Recognizing this truth deepens gratitude. It encourages presence. It encourages people to engage fully rather than constantly postponing connection for some future date that may never arrive. You do not need dozens of close relationships to live a fulfilling life. A small number of genuine connections can provide extraordinary value. What matters is quality, not quantity. One honest friend can offer more support than 100 casual acquaintances. One trusted mentor can provide guidance that changes the direction of your life. One caring family member can provide strength during a difficult season. As you continue your journey of personal growth, remember that success is not only measured by achievements, possessions, or accomplishments. Success is also reflected in the quality of the people who walk beside you. It is reflected in the conversations that bring wisdom into your life. It is reflected in the trust you build and the support you share. Do not allow busyness to become an excuse for neglecting these connections. Do not allow pride to prevent reconciliation when appropriate. Do not assume there will always be another opportunity to reach out. Take action while you can. Send the message, make the call, arrange the meeting. Express appreciation. Strengthen the bonds that matter. A life filled with warmth and honesty becomes richer in ways that cannot be measured by numbers. It becomes more resilient during hardship. It becomes more joyful during success. It becomes more meaningful during ordinary days. The right people help you remember what truly matters. They remind you that growth is not only an individual journey. It is also a shared experience. Reconnect with those who bring out the best in you. Invest in relationships built on trust, respect, sincerity, and care. Protect those connections with consistent effort. Nurture them with attention and gratitude. Over time, you will discover that some of life's greatest treasures are not found in achievements or possessions, but in the people who stand beside you, with warmth in their hearts and honesty in their words. Chapter 8. Take small actions that improve each ordinary day. Many people spend their lives waiting for a major breakthrough. They imagine that one big opportunity, one dramatic decision, or one extraordinary event will completely transform their future. Because of this belief, they often overlook something far more powerful. Life is not shaped mainly by rare moments. It is shaped by ordinary days, and ordinary days are shaped by small actions. This truth is easy to ignore because small actions rarely feel impressive. Making your bed does not seem life-changing. Reading a few pages does not appear remarkable. Taking a short walk does not create immediate applause. Drinking more water, speaking kindly, organizing a workspace, finishing a simple task, or spending 10 minutes learning something useful can all feel insignificant. Yet these actions quietly influence the direction of a life. They create momentum. They build character. They improve circumstances little by little until the difference becomes impossible to miss. Most people underestimate the power of consistency because they focus too much on immediate results. They want visible change quickly. When progress appears slow, they become discouraged. They stop before the benefits have time to accumulate. This mindset creates frustration because meaningful improvement often happens gradually. A tree does not reach full height in a week. A skill is not mastered in a day. Trust is not built in a single conversation. Strong health does not appear after one workout. Lasting change grows through repeated effort. An ordinary day may seem unimportant while you are living it. It may feel like nothing special happened. You completed your tasks. You handled responsibilities. You followed your routine. You moved through familiar experiences. Yet those ordinary days are the building blocks of your future. The quality of your life is largely determined by what you repeatedly do when nothing exciting is happening. Think about how many days are considered extraordinary in a typical year. Very few. Most days are simple. Most days involve normal responsibilities. familiar surroundings, and predictable routines. If happiness depends entirely on extraordinary moments, then joy will remain rare. But if you learn how to improve ordinary days through small actions, your entire life becomes richer. One useful habit is asking yourself a simple question each morning. What is one small thing I can do today that will make life slightly better? The answer does not need to be dramatic. Maybe you clean a cluttered area that has been bothering you. Maybe you finish a task you have been postponing. Maybe you send a message to someone you appreciate. Maybe you spend time learning something valuable. Maybe you choose patience in a situation where you would normally become frustrated. These actions seem small because they are small. That is exactly why they matter. They are easy enough to repeat. Improvement does not always require massive effort. Often it requires consistent attention to details that others ignore. There is wisdom in understanding that every action carries consequences. A small positive action may not seem important today, but it creates a ripple effect. A cleaner environment improves focus. Better focus improves productivity. Improved productivity reduces stress. Reduced stress improves emotional stability. One simple action can influence many parts of life in ways that are not immediately obvious. The same principle works in reverse. Small acts of neglect also accumulate. Ignoring responsibilities, delaying important tasks, allowing clutter to grow, avoiding difficult conversations, and neglecting healthy routines may not seem harmful at first. Yet over time these choices create unnecessary problems. Life becomes heavier because small issues were allowed to become larger ones. A Stoic perspective encourages responsibility for the present moment. The present moment is where action happens. The past cannot be changed. The future cannot be controlled completely, but today's choices remain available. This realization is empowering because it places improvement within reach. You do not need perfect conditions. You do not need unlimited resources. You only need the willingness to act where you stand. Small actions also build confidence. Many people believe confidence comes before action. In reality, confidence often follows action. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, trust grows. Every time you complete a task, discipline strengthens. Every time you choose effort instead of avoidance, self-respect increases. These gains may not be visible to others, but they matter deeply. One reason people struggle with improvement is that they focus on outcomes they cannot immediately control. They become obsessed with distant results and lose sight of daily behaviors. Instead of asking whether success has arrived yet, ask whether today's actions moved you in the right direction. This shift creates patience. It allows progress to become sustainable. Imagine a person who reads 10 pages each day. 10 pages do not seem significant, yet over months and years that person gains knowledge that others never acquire. Consider someone who spends 15 minutes organizing their environment every day. The effort seems minor, yet it prevents chaos from accumulating. Think about a person who takes a daily walk. The individual walk may feel ordinary, but the long-term effect on physical and mental well-being can be remarkable. The value of small actions becomes even clearer during difficult seasons. When life feels overwhelming, large goals may appear impossible. Major changes can seem distant. However, small actions remain available. You can still make one healthy choice. You can still complete one useful task. You can still offer one kind word. You can still take one step forward. This approach prevents discouragement from becoming paralysis. Instead of focusing on everything that feels difficult, focus on what can be done right now. Progress may be slower than you would prefer, but movement is still occurring. Small victories create momentum. Momentum creates hope. Hope creates resilience. Ordinary days also provide countless opportunities to practice character. Character is not revealed only during major events. It appears in everyday choices. It appears when you act responsibly despite inconvenience. It appears when you remain patient during minor frustrations. It appears when you complete necessary work without seeking recognition. These moments may seem unremarkable, but they shape who you become. Another valuable habit is looking for opportunities to improve your environment. Your surroundings influence your thoughts more than you may realize. A cleaner room can create greater clarity. An organized workspace can support concentration. A peaceful environment can reduce unnecessary stress. Improving your surroundings does not require perfection. Small improvements are enough to create noticeable benefits. Kindness is another small action with significant impact. Many people are carrying burdens that remain invisible. A thoughtful comment, a sincere compliment, a patient response, or a simple expression of gratitude can brighten someone's day. These actions cost very little, yet they often leave lasting impressions. A meaningful life is not only about personal achievement, it is also about contributing positively to the experiences of others. Learning should also become part of ordinary days. Growth rarely happens through occasional bursts of effort. It happens through continuous exposure to useful ideas. Read something valuable. Listen carefully to people with wisdom. Reflect on lessons from your experiences. Remain curious. A mind that continues learning remains alive and adaptable. One of the greatest dangers is believing that ordinary days do not matter. That belief leads people to waste them. They postpone growth until tomorrow. They postpone gratitude until circumstances improve. They postpone effort until motivation appears. Unfortunately, tomorrow eventually becomes next week, next month, and next year. Opportunities disappear while waiting for ideal conditions. A meaningful life is built by respecting ordinary days. Treat them as valuable because they are valuable. Every day contains choices. Every choice influences direction. Every direction eventually produces results. The person you become is largely determined by how you spend days that seem unremarkable. There is freedom in embracing this reality. You no longer need to wait for dramatic change before taking action. You no longer need perfect circumstances before improving your life. You can begin where you are. You can improve one thing, then another, then another. These efforts may seem modest, but they are creating something larger than they appear. Over time, small actions become habits. Habits become patterns. Patterns become character. Character shapes destiny. This process is not mysterious. It is simply the result of repeated choices. The future is being built through actions that often seem too small to matter. At the end of each day, ask yourself whether you made life slightly better. Did you learn something useful? Did you complete something important? Did you help someone? Did you care for your health? Did you act according to your values? The answers to these questions reveal far more about progress than dramatic achievements alone. Do not underestimate what can happen when ordinary days are treated with care. A better life is often created through hundreds of small decisions made with consistency and intention. Improvement rarely arrives through a single event. It arrives through steady effort applied day after day. Every ordinary day offers an opportunity. Not an opportunity to become perfect, but an opportunity to become slightly better. Take that opportunity seriously. Protect it. Use it well. Because when enough ordinary days are improved through small actions, an extraordinary life begins to emerge. Chapter 9. Release regret and focus on what matters now. Regret has a quiet way of following people. It does not always show up as a loud voice. Sometimes it comes as a memory that repeats when the room becomes silent. Sometimes it appears as a heavy feeling in the chest when you think about a choice you cannot undo. Sometimes it takes the shape of questions that never seem to end. Why did I wait so long? Why did I waste that time? Why did I not speak sooner? Why did I ignore what mattered? These thoughts can become a prison if they are left unchecked. Many people spend too much of their lives carrying what cannot be changed. They replay old mistakes. They rebuild old scenes in their minds. They punish themselves for decisions made in another season of life. This kind of thinking does not improve the past. It only weakens the present. A person can become so focused on what was missed that they fail to see what still remains. And what remains is often far more important than what is already gone. releasing regret is not the same as pretending nothing happened. It is not denial. It is not carelessness. It is not a refusal to learn from the past. Releasing regret means accepting that the past is real and permanent, but it no longer deserves control over your daily life. It means taking the lesson without continuing the punishment. It means understanding that guilt can teach for a while, but endless guilt only drains the spirit. There is wisdom in remembering that every life contains moments that could have gone differently. No one moves through time without making mistakes. No one speaks perfectly. No one handles every season with complete understanding. People are human. They act with limited knowledge, limited strength, and limited maturity. That truth does not erase responsibility, but it does create room for mercy. A person who never gives themselves any mercy eventually becomes trapped in shame. Shame shrinks the heart. It makes growth feel impossible. It keeps people looking backward when life is asking them to move forward. The past matters because it teaches. It does not matter because it owns you. That distinction is essential. There is a difference between learning from a wound and living inside it. One makes you wiser. The other keeps you stuck. If a mistake showed you what not to repeat, then it has served a purpose. If a loss taught you what you value, then it has already given something meaningful. You do not need to continue carrying the pain in order to honor the lesson. A person who lives in regret often believes that more punishment will somehow fix what was lost. It will not. More punishment does not return time. It does not heal relationships by itself. It does not restore missed opportunities. What it can do is destroy the energy needed for present action. That is why the mind must be trained to ask a better question. Not, why did this happen to me, but what is life asking me to do now? That question is far more useful. It does not erase pain. It redirects energy. Focus on what matters now begins with accepting that the present moment is the only place where change can happen. The past can be remembered. The future can be prepared for, but only now can you speak, act, decide, repair, forgive, learn, and build. A person who wants a better life must come back to this truth again and again. The present is not small. It is the entire doorway through which every future improvement must pass. Regret often grows stronger when people compare who they are now with who they think they should have been by this age. That comparison is unfair because it ignores the full story. It ignores the battles fought in silence. It ignores the seasons of confusion. It ignores the lessons that came slowly. It ignores the fact that life does not develop on a clean schedule. Some people learn later. Some people heal later. Some people find direction later. That does not make their lives less valuable. What matters is not whether the path was perfect. What matters is whether you are willing to walk it more wisely now. This moment still contains power. You can still be honest with someone. You can still correct a habit. You can still begin a healthier routine. You can still choose patience. You can still read, study, work, rest, and reconnect with purpose. You may not be able to rewrite the earlier chapters, but you can write the one that is unfolding right now. One of the best ways to release regret is to make peace with imperfection. Many regrets are rooted in the painful belief that life should have been different and that being human was not enough. But the truth is that growth usually comes through mistakes, delays, and hard lessons. A difficult past is not proof that everything was wasted. It may be proof that you were being shaped in ways you could not see at the time. Some lessons only become clear in hindsight. That does not make the pain pleasant, but it does make the story larger than the failure. A stoic way of thinking helps here. You cannot control what has already happened. You cannot force the mind to erase memory. You cannot demand that time return. But you can control how much power the memory holds today. You can choose whether to use the past as a tool or as a weight. You can decide whether a failure will become wisdom or bitterness. That choice matters. It shapes the quality of your mind. There is also great value in forgiveness. Sometimes the person you need to forgive most is yourself. That may be difficult to hear, because many people are used to being harder on themselves than on anyone else. They speak to themselves in a way they would never speak to a friend. They replay mistakes with cruelty. They think that self-criticism proves responsibility. In truth, it often proves fear. Real responsibility says, I see what happened, I understand the cost, and I will do better from here. It does not need to keep striking after the lesson has already been learned. When regret rises, return to action. Action is one of the fastest ways to break the cycle of self-blame. Clean the room, finish the task, make the call, write the apology, take the walk, prepare the meal, open the book, start the work. Small acts of order can calm a restless mind. They remind you that your life is not frozen. It is still moving. And movement restores hope. It also helps to limit the amount of time you spend feeding old pain. Constantly reopening the same memory can become a habit. The mind returns to what it rehearses. If you keep rehearsing regret, regret grows. If you keep rehearsing present responsibility, strength grows. This is not about suppressing feelings. It is about directing attention with wisdom. Your attention is too valuable to spend endlessly on what cannot be changed. The present deserves your full effort because it still has consequences. How you speak today affects trust. How you work today affects your future. How you rest today affects your energy. How you think today affects your choices. How you treat others today affects your relationships. Nothing about this moment is meaningless. It is already shaping what comes next. That is why it must not be wasted on endless mourning over what is already finished. A meaningful life is not one that never made mistakes. It is one that learned how to move forward with honesty. It is one that stopped confusing regret with responsibility. It is one that learned to say, that happened, I have learned from it, and now I will live differently. That is a mature response. It is also a peaceful one. It frees the mind from the impossible task of changing the past and returns energy to the work of building the future. Relinquish the regret that has drained your strength. Keep the lesson, keep the wisdom, keep the humility, but let go of the burden that only weighs you down. The day in front of you still matters. The choices in front of you still matter. The people in front of you still matter. The work in front of you still matters. Life is happening now, and now is enough to begin again. Chapter 10. Celebrate progress to stay motivated and keep growing. Many people spend their entire lives chasing the next achievement. They focus so intensely on what remains unfinished that they rarely stop to acknowledge how far they have already come. As soon as one goal is reached, another appears. As soon as one challenge is overcome, attention shifts toward the next obstacle. While ambition can be valuable, it becomes dangerous when it prevents appreciation. A person who never recognizes progress eventually begins to feel as though nothing is ever enough. This is one of the hidden reasons people lose motivation. It is not always because they are failing. Sometimes it is because they are succeeding without noticing it. They become so focused on distance that they forget to measure growth. They compare themselves to an ideal version of the future instead of comparing themselves to the person they used to be. As a result, every accomplishment feels smaller than it truly is. Celebrating progress is not about becoming satisfied with mediocrity. It is not about lowering standards. It is not about stopping growth. It is about recognizing evidence that your effort is producing results. It is about honoring the discipline, persistence, and courage that brought you this far. When you learn to appreciate progress, motivation becomes stronger because the mind begins to see proof that change is possible. Many people think celebration must involve something dramatic. They imagine large rewards, public recognition, or major milestones. In reality, some of the most important victories are quiet. They happen in moments nobody else sees. Waking up earlier than before, remaining calm during a situation that once triggered frustration, finishing work instead of delaying it, following through on a promise, making a healthier choice, speaking with greater patience, managing stress more effectively. These achievements may seem ordinary, but they represent genuine growth. Growth often happens slowly. Because it happens slowly, it can become invisible to the person experiencing it. Imagine watching a tree every day for a year. The daily changes would be difficult to notice, yet by the end of the year, the growth would be obvious. Personal development works the same way. Daily improvements may appear small when viewed individually. Over time, however, they create remarkable transformation. One of the most valuable habits you can develop is learning how to measure progress correctly. Many people only celebrate outcomes. They celebrate when they reach a target, earn recognition, or achieve a major result. While those moments deserve appreciation, focusing only on outcomes creates a problem. Outcomes are not always under your complete control. Effort is. A healthier approach is to celebrate actions that align with your values. Celebrate consistency, celebrate discipline, celebrate honesty, celebrate persistence. Celebrate the decision to keep going when quitting would have been easier. These victories deserve recognition because they are the foundation upon which larger achievements are built. Consider someone learning a new skill. At the beginning, improvement feels slow. Mistakes happen frequently. Progress appears uneven. If that person only celebrates mastery, discouragement will likely arrive long before success. However, if they appreciate each small improvement, motivation remains alive. They continue practicing because they can see evidence that growth is occurring. The same principle applies to every area of life. Relationships improve through small efforts. Health improves through repeated choices. Confidence grows through accumulated experiences. Character develops through daily decisions. Lasting success is rarely the result of a single breakthrough. More often, it is the result of hundreds of small victories stacked together over time. The Stoic perspective encourages gratitude for effort rather than attachment to outcomes. You cannot control every result. You can control how faithfully you pursue what matters. This mindset creates freedom. It allows you to appreciate your progress without becoming dependent on external approval. Your growth becomes something you recognize internally, rather than something you wait for others to validate. Many people struggle because they move the finish line every time they get closer. They finally achieve something they once desperately wanted, yet instead of appreciating it, they immediately focus on what remains unfinished. This habit creates a permanent sense of dissatisfaction. No achievement ever feels meaningful because attention instantly shifts elsewhere. There is wisdom in pausing long enough to acknowledge what has been accomplished. Think about challenges you have already survived. Think about lessons you have learned. Think about habits you have improved. Think about fears you have faced. Think about responsibilities you now handle better than before. These improvements matter. They represent evidence that you are not standing still. Taking time to reflect on progress also strengthens resilience. Difficult seasons become easier to navigate when you remember previous victories. When new obstacles appear, you can remind yourself that you have overcome challenges before. You have adapted, you have learned, you have grown stronger. This memory creates confidence grounded in experience rather than wishful thinking. Another benefit of celebrating progress is that it helps combat perfectionism. Perfectionism convinces people that nothing deserves recognition until it is flawless. This mindset creates constant frustration because perfection remains out of reach. A perfectionist often overlooks genuine improvement because they are too focused on remaining imperfections. Growth does not require perfection. Growth requires movement. If you are improving, learning, adjusting, and becoming wiser, then progress is occurring. Acknowledge it, respect it. Allow yourself to feel encouraged by it. Doing so does not make you complacent. It makes you sustainable. One practical exercise is reviewing your progress regularly. At the end of each week, ask yourself what went well. Identify moments where you handled situations better than you would have in the past. Notice improvements in your habits, thinking, and behavior. Write them down if possible. Recording progress helps prevent it from being forgotten. Many people remember failures with remarkable clarity while quickly forgetting successes. The mind often pays greater attention to problems than achievements. This tendency can distort reality. Keeping a record of progress creates balance. It reminds you that growth is happening even when it feels slow. Celebrating progress should also include gratitude for the journey itself. Every lesson learned, every obstacle faced, and every challenge overcome contributes to your development. Even difficult experiences often provide valuable insights. While you may not be grateful for every hardship, you can appreciate the strength gained through facing it. There is something powerful about recognizing who you are becoming, not who you wish to be someday, not who others expect you to become. Who you are becoming right now through your choices and actions. This awareness creates a sense of purpose. It helps you see that daily effort is creating meaningful change. It is also important to share victories with people who genuinely care about your growth. Healthy relationships provide encouragement. Trusted friends, mentors, and family members can help you recognize progress that you may overlook. Sometimes others see changes in us before we fully see them ourselves. Their perspective can provide valuable motivation. At the same time, your sense of progress should not depend entirely on external praise. Public recognition is unpredictable. Some achievements will be noticed, others will remain unseen. Learn to value your effort even when nobody applauds. The most meaningful victories are often private. They happen in moments when you choose discipline over comfort, responsibility over excuses, and growth over stagnation. As life continues, new goals will emerge, new challenges will appear, new opportunities will require effort. This process never truly ends. Personal growth is not a destination where you eventually arrive and stop. It is a lifelong journey of learning, adapting, improving, and contributing. Because the journey continues, celebrating progress becomes even more important. It provides fuel for the road ahead. It reminds you why your effort matters. It helps maintain enthusiasm during seasons when results seem distant. It keeps your focus balanced between ambition and appreciation. Do not rush past your victories. Do not dismiss them simply because they seem small. Every meaningful achievement once existed as a small step. Every strong habit began as a single choice. Every significant transformation started with modest actions repeated consistently. Look back occasionally and notice the distance you have traveled. Notice the wisdom you have gained. Notice the discipline you have developed. Notice the courage you have shown. These things deserve recognition because they represent real progress. Then continue forward. Not with arrogance, not with complacency, but with confidence. Confidence built on evidence. Confidence built on experience. Confidence built on the understanding that growth is already happening. The purpose of celebrating progress is not to stop moving. It is to strengthen your desire to keep moving. It reminds you that improvement is possible. It proves that effort creates results. It shows that ordinary actions repeated faithfully can transform a life. As this journey continues, carry both ambition and gratitude. Pursue meaningful goals with determination. Continue learning, continue improving, continue building habits that support a fulfilling life. But never become so focused on the horizon that you forget to appreciate the ground you have already covered. The person you are today is not the person you were yesterday, last year, or years ago. You have learned, adapted, endured, and grown. Honor that reality. Celebrate that reality. Let it strengthen your motivation. Then take the next step forward with renewed purpose, knowing that every small improvement matters and every day offers another opportunity to keep growing.